The day is here. Wembanyama will be a Spur. But what else did we learn about the next Spurs star player?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kent's 5 San Antonio. I am glad to have you back. As always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team each and every single day. The wait is over, everybody. It's over. It's done. Give them the card right now. Why are we going to wait till tonight at Barclays? It's time to get Wemby in that Spurs draft day cap. But before that event happens, we're going to be discussing about what more do we learn about Wemby during his NBA draft media day. I was there live in person in New York City in a hall. Not a little scrum, not a little table, not the little table you have in your kitchen right now. I'm talking about an entire wing of the hotel conference room. Wemby did his thing, and then we're going to get some final thoughts about tonight's draft, which we all know is going to happen, but what could happen after Wemby is announced as the next Spurs big star. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. They'll throw in free custom Bird Dog Yeti-style tumbler with each and every order. Once again, that is Bird Dog. So before we bring in our guest, as mentioned, I had a chance. Well, first of all, let me tell everybody, yes, the audio show, yes, because I'm still under the weather. You can't hear it. Still stuffed up, still not looking good for cameras. There's napkins and tissues stuck up my nose as we speak, so I don't drool everywhere, snot everywhere. I know, gross. But there we go. But the point is this. As I mentioned, I had a chance to be there in person yesterday at the NBA Draft Media Day, and it was an event. And I've been to so many, everybody, that I lost count. I've been to the ones in person. I've been to the ones at different hotels in New York City. I've been to one during the pandemic where it was just online. I've been to tons of them, and I lost count. But usually what happens is every player, no matter if you're the consensus, hands down, gonna be the bona fide first-round pick, everybody gets treated the same. Everybody goes into into a room on their own stool, if you will, and table, and that's it. It's cramped. There's media people there talking left and right, and it's kind of a free-for-all, and it is just craziness. I was expecting that. Instead, when I showed up to the place, they said, "No, you're from Wembanyama." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, he's on the 4th floor in an entire hall by himself." Unprecedented from my personal experience in dealing with these NBA draft media sessions. I was floored. I thought for sure he's going to be in the same room. All the other, draft prospects going to be next to him. Scoot Henderson was going to be next to him. Grady Dick's going to be next to him. That everybody else was going to be next to him. And instead, he got his own wing. And that should tell you exactly what type of player the Spurs are going to be getting soon. A player that is a celebrity. He's a star. He's already been on several major news outlets. Features on ESPN, ABC, NBC, you name it. He's been everywhere already. Spurs haven't had that in quite some time. But one thing I will tell you, though, is that he looks like he can be the real deal. We're going to be discussing that and more. We're going to bring in our guest. He's finally back, everybody, after a transition from one radio platform to another. He is back here. He is Michael Jimenez of The Acquired Taste. That's right. His new show is called The Acquired Taste. It's on YouTube right now. Simply just Google it, or YouTube it, I should say, and subscribe immediately. It's going to bring him on. He is Michael Jimenez. What is up, Acquired Taste? New show. So we give you a round of applause here. We haven't done
very nice, man. I appreciate it, man. It's been a heck of a first 2-week period here for The Acquired Taste, but having fun so far. Joe Garcia and I are having fun putting together this show, and the amount of love that we've gotten so far has been overwhelming. But, man, it is draft day. The Spurs are on the clock, baby. excited. We all prayed for this as Spurs fans, and the night's finally here. The question is, beyond Wemby, we know Wemby's going to go number one overall,
Sure.
but the big question is, will the Spurs trade back into the first round for a second first-round draft pick? That's what I'm looking forward to.
Exactly. Make sure to follow Jimenez on Twitter at MJ Acquire Taste. Same thing for YouTube. Search that, MJ Acquire Taste. Cannot miss it. It's right there. Subscribe, and you're good to go. So, Jimenez, I was at NBA Draft Media Day yesterday, and there's a lot of takeaways I've had, and I want to share them with you and the listeners right now. And the first thing that really stood out for me, and meeting him for the first time, see him in person, yes, he's all that. He is super tall. Let me tell you that much. Pictures and video do not do it justice. But my first reaction and my takeaway was that he seems to be on a mission, and a mission to be great. And I'll give you an example. So he tells everybody, nobody's going to stop me from dribbling the ball up and down the court, dribbling the ball up to take a 3-shot. I want to be great at press conferences, media sessions. He says, I want to be great, in every facet of the game. And I sat there and I'm thinking, okay, this kid is saying the right things, but he's just adding more hype to the hype. He says he can handle it. He says he can deal with it. But this is hype on top of hype, Jimenez. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's not shying away from it at all. And I was very jealous of you as I was going through your timeline yesterday of all the things that you were doing that was Wemby related over there in New York. But no, he's not shying away from it at all. And, Spurs fans, we're used to the introverted nature of David Robinson and of Tim Duncan. But Victor Wembanyama is a rock star. And he's embracing this moment. He's embracing it all. And not only is he expressing himself in a way that is different and also in a way that's an alpha among alphas, but he's doing it using his second language.
Right.
So it just shows how smart he is, how bright he is, and the way that he communicates with the media. You use the word a mission, and I think that's the perfect way to describe it, because he's not coming out here saying, I hope things work out. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to hope that, that things fall into place. No, he's coming out here saying that he's coming over here to be a star, and he's coming over here to dominate. And that is the one thing that people who have been following him in France have been saying that the U.S. media did not get, was the fact that this guy has an attitude, a Mamba mentality that Kobe had, a Kevin Garnett attitude of, if you show me up, I'll show you back up. Sure. And I don't think the Spurs fans have ever seen a player like this in the silver and black, and it makes it even more exciting.
What's exciting for me, too, is that he's just 19 years old and he's saying this. So maybe he could have been trained up before yesterday or heading into the NBA when everybody knew that all signs were pointing to that. But the point is that if he carries this mentality over into San Antonio, which he likely will, perhaps this rebuild is not just shortened, but maybe just fast-tracked. Put on the express subway, if you will. Put it on hyperdrive. This is not going to take as long as we thought. And I bring that up because one thing that really stood out for me, though, was he reflected on his time with Metro 92. Now, those who don't know, that was the name of his French team at the French League, Metropolitans 92. So he tells everybody how special it was for him in that final season with the Metros. And my thought, sitting there thinking, okay, well, yeah, it's bon voyage, France, hello, United States, NBA. But Jimenez, he said the reason why he liked this, and I like this a lot, because if he's going to be the alpha, if he's going to be the franchise, he needs to have this mentality. Don't miss Locked On NBA Draft Live on Thursday night. Pick-by-pick analysis from our stable of local NBA hosts, national reaction from our big board host, and live check-ins from inside the NBA Draft. Locked On NBA Draft Live, starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard on the Locked On NBA YouTube page. And I want to talk to everybody about Bird Dogs. Like, Bird Dogs make you look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh, leg, and giving you a truly sculpted look. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. You don't want that. You want Bird Dog shorts. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. Bird Dogs also uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day. Show yourself wearing Bird Dogs on camera. Talk about how they look good on you and out your friends. Get rid of that old stiff cotton shorts or pant. Get yourself some Bird Dogs right now. And you want to go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. Those with the Metropolitans 92, I never had this kind of responsibility in my life on the basketball court. I had to push a lot of guys up and make them good as possible. He's coaching them up on the court. He's getting in their faces. He's saying I was thrusted into a leadership position with the Metros, and I never did that before. I like that. I like that. That's the type of because I like that Jimenez because we know what he can do skill wise. We know he can shoot the three or at least attempt them and make a few. You know what he can do as a dirt runner and all that good stuff. But we never got a glimpse at those intangibles. He gave us a glimpse into his intangible that he had to make them good as possible. And the Metros finished with, I believe, with the second best team in the league before bowing out in the French League Finals. I like that Jimenez. That's got to be good.
Yeah, and that was a French team that was also not very deep. So, people keep asking, well, if Wemby's so great, why didn't they win the championship? It's because the team was not as good as the team that they lost to. In fact, the team that they lost to was favored to win the championship series. Right. So it wasn't a surprise at all. No, but hearing Wemby coming out the last couple of days, not only what he did with you in New York and the whole media session he had there, but also with Robin Roberts on Good Morning America, also on JJ Redick's podcast, you're getting to learn a lot about who he is and his mentality and his desire for greatness. And you mentioned that he had to push people out of the way to have leadership roles, and he was coaching up his teammates. Keep in mind, he is considered to be the best prospect since LeBron James. LeBron James was coming out of high school at the time, whereas you have Victor Wembanyama, who was playing professional ball against 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 35-year-olds. Yeah. It's a lot different. He has a lot more experience. So even if he didn't play in the NCAA or anything like that, he has a different type of experience. And this is so fascinating because one of the other things that he said yesterday, and if you caught this, they were asking about his teammate. And I'm going to get the name wrong. It's Bilal Coulibaly.
Yeah. I was just saying Bilal all day. That's all.
Bilal.
I'm not going to
try. Kind of like Giannis, right? I don't like saying Antetokounmpo. I'll just call him Bilal, right? And he was outright saying, I would love to play with Bilal. And think about that. He didn't come into the draft, 24 hours before the draft saying, oh, whatever the Spurs do, I'm going to trust Brian Wright. I'm going to trust the front office. When I heard that, I thought to myself, isn't that like his way of saying, this is who I want, make it so? And if the Spurs do go and get Bilal, that would be amazing. That would be such a power move that maybe, just maybe, this guy has a little LeBron in him. Is he going to be that player who's going to be not only the alpha on the court, but kind of a quasi GM? This is so different than what the Spurs have had in the past. And I'm not saying that that's not necessarily what he's trying to do, but what he said that he would want to play with Bilal, there's only one way that can happen.
Yep.
Is if the Spurs go and use their draft capital to move back into the first round all over again, because Bilal is projected to go somewhere between 9 and 14.
It would be a pretty penny for the Spurs to get back into that draft, that top 10 round.
Yeah.
Because Bilal's projected with like 5 below, right? Like 5 to 15, I think.
Well, I mean, there's the outliers saying that he could go number 5. In fact, that is something that I heard that Victor Wembanyama said, that he's a top 5 talent, that Bilal is. But most of the mock drafts are saying 9, 10, kind of like where the Dallas Mavericks are drafting. The capital that the Spurs would need to spend on that would probably be 3 first-rounders and maybe even a player to make that happen. And that's why going into this draft, I wonder, is Devin Vassell going to be on this team in 24 hours? Is Keldon Johnson going to be? I know Brian Wright told reporters the other day that they're not going to shop them around. But come on, man, what else was he going to say?
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
not going to signal it already, ahead of draft night and where trades
yeah.
can be had. So yeah, he's going to say that stuff. But it's just interesting to really see him up close and personal. In New York City, he was just a couple of paces away from me, and excuse me, and just walking away knowing that, my goodness, this is the next Spurs megastar. It's right in front of me, and even I was awestruck. And look, when I would go to the Spurs Big Three era and the locker room, and there's Timmy, Tony, and Manu, I got awestruck. But then I saw Wemby come in, and let me tell you, it wasn't just me. When he walked into the room, the entire media floor just went quiet, silent, and like royalty walked in, like the king walked in, and it was just quiet. He goes up the steps, he sits down in the chair, he throws a smile to the crowd, and here we go with questions. Well spoken, very well spoken. I like that he acknowledges that English is not a second language, but could have fooled me. He speaks very, very well. And what was just so fascinating with him, Jimenez, is that the extra stuff that he's going to bring, not in a bad way, but in a testing way, because as mentioned earlier, I got a chance to go with him to the NBA Cares event, and people were starting to cheer, and I said, okay, well, I guess that's a sign that he's coming. They're getting the crowd ready to go. No, they were cheering for his entourage. He had an entourage with him. Now, granted, a majority of that was made up of family, I believe. I know his mom and dad were there. His basketball coach was there, well, back in France, and I believe a couple family members. But he had, you could tell he had PR staff there. He had that documentary crew with him. They put him aside to chat with him. He was being tugged left and right, left and right. And then when he finally had time to go with the kids, to interact with the kids and play basketball with them, it was like towards the end. Jimenez, I'm interested in seeing how the Spurs handle a megastar at this level. How do you think they're going to deal with that?
Well, when it's a megastar, they're the ones who lead the dance. They being Victor Wembanyama, and the Spurs' way of doing things is not going to exist here. Okay, if Wemby wants a podcast, if Wemby wants to do social engagements, if he wants to do these national interviews, he's going to get his way. And the thing about Greg Popovich was he was so fortunate to have the leadership of David Robinson when Tim Duncan was drafted, and then all of those veterans that were there, and then Tim Duncan's personality, being introverted, very much matched the reserved nature that Greg Popovich displayed for many years.
Hey, I want to talk about eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors with eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know if the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. And we cannot forget about talking about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee, locally owned in San Antonio, serving the San Antonio community. You got to go there right now. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. They have a great menu from lattes to cold drinks to hot drinks. You name it, they have it. With Wembanyama coming soon, just in a few hours. Well, guess what? They have a drink called the Alien, made in honor of Wemby. It's Red Bull, green apple, and kiwi all mixed together. It's a great, great drink. They also have the OG OJ. If you need your nostalgia vibes plucked, go get the OG OJ. It's basically Orange Julius, but it's back only at Mudslingers. Look, over 300 5-star reviews cannot be wrong. You can find them on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, every platform at Mudslinger STX. They also have the Red Bull infused Lightning Bolt series. One of my favorites there, add the strawberry. You're not going to regret it. Just tell them, throw a little strawberry flavor, good to go. So, once again, go to Mudslinger's Drive-Through Coffee out in San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Life is too short for bland coffee.
That worked, and Tim, Tony, and Manu kind of came together and decided that was going to be the way. Then we saw what happened with Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard is a weird man, and he didn't fit the Spurs mold as to what the Spurs wanted, and it's almost like, the Spurs didn't treat him as a star. The star was Greg Popovich. The star was the Spurs way. The star was the 5 banners hanging at the AT&T Center. And I bet you that if Kawhi was treated as a star, that might have worked out differently. But Victor Wembanyama coming to San Antonio, he's coming to take over the NBA. And that's the exciting thing. I mean, just hearing the philosophies that he has.
Sure.
When I listened to the JJ Redick podcast the other day, talking about what drives him, what motivates him, dude. When you hear him talk, you're hearing a slightly subdued Kobe Bryant,
right?
You somebody who has a mentality of, I'm here to dominate. I don't want to win one ring. I want to win several rings, and I want it as soon as humanly possible. And when you have somebody that's like that, they're going to lead the dance. When you have somebody who's like that, it's going to be their way or the highway.
Right.
And it's not going to be, well, Pop's going to have to rein him in and RC, and they're going to have to get the Spurs brain trust around him and Tim, Tony, and Manu to kind of tell him the way that he should be. Screw all of that.
You know what?
None of that exists.
You know what, Jimenez? This, listening to you right now and knowing the modern day NBA star and what they want. Look, it is a players' league. We know that. The players practically run the league. Wembanyama is going to add to that. He's going to really insert himself into the Spurs fabric, if you will. As we're talking about the ushering in of a new era, perhaps the other thing that's going to retire soon is that Spurs way. That, look, they built around Timmy, and Timmy didn't like the media. He didn't put himself out there. So they took that and they ran with that, and they just ran with that. Media lockdown. Nobody can talk to these guys. Wembanyama's going to open the door again. He's going to be the one to say, let everybody come in. And look, you started seeing it already. Excuse me. Sohan, Q&As with fans. DeJounte Murray, before he left, he would just meet up with fans, give them jerseys. So I think Wembanyama's just going to kick that Spurs closed door mentality wide open. They got no choice. If they want to keep him for beyond his rookie contract, they're going to have to, Jimenez.
Yeah, and it's all up to Pop. But can you imagine if that is Pop's legacy? Can you imagine if Pop's legacy ends up being losing Victor Wembanyama? I don't want to get there yet because that's 4 years down the road. But my God, you have to give him what he wants. You got to get him the players that he needs to be successful. And that's why the whole belief of, well, the Spurs are going to go out there and just trot it out there to see what they got, I don't think necessarily is going to work. I mean, I think they need to start winning now and figuring that out, or get him the players that he wants. Because we have our own LeBron now. We have our own player who wants to call the shots in a way. Now, he might be more diplomatic about it. He might be smiling when he's saying it. But I think he's more LeBron James than he is Tim Duncan when it comes to attitude and the desire for greatness. He's more Kobe Bryant than he is David Robinson. And because
I would say
of that,
he leans more towards Giannis in that department.
Well, I mean,
smiles in front of the cameras, but behind the scenes works the magic.
Right. Okay. That's a very good way of putting it. But Giannis, also coming from Europe as well, the Greek freak coming from Europe. And this is so exciting because my question about all of this is well, first of all, we don't even know if Pop's going to be head coach, right? I mean, Pop has not signed yet. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nothing as of this recording, no report.
we are all assuming that that's going to be the case. Um,
Well, the Spurs already said he's speaking to everybody after the pick is in tomorrow, or tonight. Sorry, excuse me.
okay. So I mean, I'm assuming that Pop is going to be back, and I don't mind Pop being back because as much crap as I gave him, as much grief as I gave Pop during the rebuild, he's not a rebuild guy, but he can make good players great, and he can make great players legendary, and that's why Pop is a good mentor for him, right, to start out his career. But at the same time, if it's oil and vinegar and it's just not meshing well, then the Spurs are going to have to side with Victor Wembanyama. We've always said that Pop reserves the right to bow out whenever he feels like it. That day has come and gone, because if Wemby doesn't want him, Pop is gone.
Ooh.
And that is a very, very interesting development, because it's nothing personal, it's business. And I'm excited about what's going on with the Spurs right now. Brian Wright, the artist formerly known as a hologram, is now looking like a genius because of all of these draft picks stockpiled. But there's no way in the world they would have known that they were going to get the number 1 overall pick.
No way. No,
but now with all the picks, potentially 3, they've got Charlotte's and Toronto's next year along with their own protected. One is top 6 protected, one is top 14 protected. I think the Spurs will have 2. The Spurs are locked in to having 3 in 2025. The Spurs have swaps along the way. They've got a couple of years where they have multiple first-round draft picks. And the Spurs got to do something with it, because they can't be drafting 2 or 3 players every single year. Spurs had 3 first-rounders last year, and so had Wesley and Branham. So it is actually in the Spurs' best interest to actually move back up into the first round and use some of these draft picks, because they no longer have to search for the star. They already have the main course. They now have to search for the appropriate side dishes
and
to go with the main course.
And this is the menu you want to pick off of this draft class. This is it. Now, I think they say like a couple years from now it's supposed to be really good again, but the Spurs will be set in even a few years from now with multiple picks, first and second round. We're talking with Michael Jimenez of the Acquired Taste podcast and / YouTube show. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste, excuse me, and on YouTube search MJ Acquired Taste. Subscribe to it ASAP. Another takeaway I had from his media day, Jimenez, was this: just how he's still down to earth. And what I mean by that is, as the event was over for the kids and the NBA event, the basketball, drills, instruction segment, he was waving bye to the kids. He went back. He signed autographs for them. There were no cameras around him. Nobody was following him at this point. The event was pretty much over. He was waving bye to them. He jumped back in line with them and started playing with them. I don't think that was scripted. That looked very genuine when I was watching him. So I like that. So he's going to definitely add to this piece of the community aspect in San Antonio. So thumbs up for that. Other things too is that he made it very clear too that he feels fine physically, that he's okay, that he said he's in the best shape he's been at 19 years old. But nevertheless, he said last season with the French team is his best shape, and he is going to play in the summer league. So there's your answer. He's playing, whether it be Sacramento or Las Vegas or both. But I think it's going to come down to this is just the amount he plays. I don't see him playing a full slate either in Sacramento or Las Vegas, Jimenez.
He'll do whatever the hell he wants to do.
It's already come to that already for a 19-year-old. That's how crazy it is. For a 19-year-old star, he's already practically going to be calling the shots.
Yeah, and it's funny because, there had been no word coming from Spurs front office as to whether or not he was going to take part in Sacramento or in Las Vegas or Utah or wherever they have these. And for him to be interviewed saying, yeah, I'm playing some, and that made headlines there. And it's like Spurs didn't make that announcement. He made that announcement. And I don't think he's going to go out there and play, 25, 30 minutes, but he's going to get a workout in there. He's a young guy. And he starts talking about his body and what he's doing. What I like about Victor Wembanyama the most, beyond all of these different things, because when I'm talking about him, about being a ruthless kind of guy in a way, or at least that's the way he's being described in a way, but it's not a ruthless in a mean way, it's a ruthless in a confident way.
Yeah.
And straddling the line between, confidence and arrogance, that's what Kobe did, that's what LeBron James still does to this day. But when I hear him talk about the will to be great and what motivates him and what drives him, it is humbling because it's
Right.
for no other reason that he wants to do it for himself. It is a personal challenge. It's to make his parents proud. It's to make his country proud because he knows that people are watching back home.
Right.
And it's a pressure that he's embracing. And that's why when I look at it more and more as we're getting, just TikTok hours away from the NBA draft tonight, it's just so like it's a roller coaster ride that we're getting on that we've never been on before. And we don't know the twists and turns. We're just going at it blindly. And it's so exciting as a Spurs fan because this is what we wanted. We wanted this guy. We wanted it with this draft. This is the reason why Team Tank existed. This is why the Spurs tanked. They did it for this guy, not to do it the Spurs way, to do it this guy's way.
Right.
And it's going to be fun, but my goodness, for those of you watching the draft tonight, and if you think I'm just going to watch the first 15, 20 minutes and see Wemby be picked and that's it, I'm sorry. There's a very good chance that the Spurs are going to do something.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because let's go ahead and give our final thoughts on the NBA draft tonight. So we're going to start it off right now. Buy or sell Jimenez, the Spurs will make a move to get back into the top 10.
I'm going to buy it. And I think that if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say it's about a 60 to 65% chance.
I'm right there with you, yeah.
I'm not saying that it's going to happen because it takes two to tango. And you would need to have another team want to trade out of their spot. And this is a very good draft. So the Spurs are going to have to put a little bit more than the normal amount of capital to make this happen. It might take a player. It might take a Vassell. It might take a Keldon Johnson. It might take one of those types of players along with multiple first rounders to make this happen. But it's very possible. Now, the weird thing about it is that, there's typically 60 draft picks, but I think because a couple got forfeited, we're having just 58 players drafted tonight. And on top of that, almost 60% of the draft picks belong to 10 teams. So there are teams out there, there are 10 teams, Spurs included, that have 3 or more picks in this year's draft. And so you if you're trying to trade with another team, they might already have the draft capital that they want to need. I'm looking right now at the draft right now as to like who are the teams that might actually want to do business with the Spurs. And well, Oklahoma City always hoards picks, right? I mean, that's just who they are. That's what they do. But I'm also looking at a team like the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic have multiple first-round draft picks this year. And would they entertain the idea of bouncing out of one of them because they're picking at 6 and 11? If the Spurs are trying to get into that 11 spot to get Bilal or get, that combo guard from Kentucky, Kaysen, or try to go get any player that they've been looking at, or what if one of the Thompson twins fall? What if Oscar drops or somebody's going to fall in the draft, right? What if it's Anthony Black? What if it's any of those guys? And the Spurs have targeted this particular player. Well, I think Orlando is a team that would want to do business. I think a team like the Washington Wizards would want to do business too because they just recently made a big trade. They're obviously recalculating all that they're doing. I think that is a team to target as well. And the Spurs have had a history of doing trades with teams like Indiana. So, and then also Toronto. The Spurs have a history of trading with Toronto as well. So I think that those teams right there, you're looking at picks number 7, 8, 11, and 13, I think can be had. I don't think the Dallas Mavericks are going to do any business with the Spurs.
No. They're not going to wait. They're going to make an interdivisional team stronger. No,
right. The Rockets aren't going to do it either. But you take a look at some of these teams. If you're going to move up in the draft to get the 2 pick from Charlotte or the 3 pick from Portland or the 5 pick from Detroit, I think you can get that 5 pick. To be honest with you, you're going to give up a lot.
Yeah, you got to say that. You read my mind. It's going to cost a big ticker, price sticker to pay.
Yes, most definitely.
But the good news is that the Spurs, they can afford it. Teams know where they stand, so they're going to try to fleece them. But even if they say, give us KJ and a couple of the first rounders that you have, okay, they can do that and still not feel a hit to the wallet, so to speak, because they'll be all right. Yeah, and overall, go ahead. Sorry.
And that might be a positive thing because you mentioned early in this podcast how Victor Wembanyama is out there saying that no one's going to stop him from shooting, no one's going to stop him from passing the ball, no one's going to stop him from bringing the ball up the court. And because of that, I'm looking at who's the odd man out of this rotation. Is Trey Jones going to come back? I want Trey Jones back, but is he a starter? Are they going to do a point forward situation with Jeremy Sohan bringing the ball up and then having Wemby bring the ball up and then, Devin Vassell and all of these players? I think the player that is the odd man out right now is Keldon, because Sohan is a 7'3". He made that announcement today, right? He says 7'3".
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, no, Wemby said officially.
Yeah,
he's
so
7'3". Yeah,
7'3", 7'5" in shoes. He's basically a small forward when it's all said and done. And I'm looking at Sohan. By the way, Sohan being out there in New York warmed my heart. Like, you can tell that these two are going to be besties on the court and off the court. They're both from Europe. They're both relatively the same age. They understand each other. Sohan asking questions in multiple languages. Just tell they're just looking at each other like, dude, game on. I never thought Sohan was a Batman, but he could be one hell of a Robin. And I think that Sohan is the biggest benefactor of the Spurs getting Victor Wembanyama in the draft tonight.
Absolutely.
I think that Sohan is going to go. I kind of joked. I was like, "There's no way in the world that Sohan is an all-star." Right? If this was Amen Thompson or Osar Thompson the Spurs are drafting, I would still be of that sense that he's just not that guy. But developing next to Victor Wembanyama,
oh yeah, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal. Like if you said now, oh well, is Sohan going to be an all-star? I can now see it happening. Yeah. And that is not a flip-flop. That is just things changed. And
that's the Wemby effect. It's on and off the court. It's going to be on the court, obviously, and then the fringe, the branches out of that, the players getting better and wide open looks and the spacing, all that good stuff. The game is easier in the NBA versus the EuroLeague, at least offensively. Yeah, that's where the biggest difference is. And Spurs in the rebuild, well, perhaps in more of a quick retooling, but they can quicken it 10 times more with the amount of draft capital and cash they have sitting in their wallets right now, or their bank accounts. They're good. They're good.
Dude, right now, the odds, I think it's DraftKings Sportsbook of the Spurs going 500 or better.
Yeah.
6.5 to 1 odds.
Wow.
$100 bet gets you a $650 profit. I got to somehow steal $500 from my savings account where my wife won't see it, because I'm looking at that going, that's an easy $3,000 I'm going to get right there. Good grief.
Well, let's let you go so you can go take care of that. He is Michael Jimenez of The Acquired Taste. Follow him on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. He's also on YouTube. His new show recently launched. Brand new, fresh off the factory. Tell us about The Acquired Taste, your new adventure right here on Locked On Spurs.
Yeah, so about a couple of weeks ago, it was shown the door over at San Antonio Sports Star. Good ratings, but apparently wasn't enough. So I decided at the very last minute, because there was a lot of people who reached out to me and were like, dude, we still like you on air. Dude, it went viral. 2 posts had 125,000 views combined talking about me being out of sports talk radio. And people were saying, we want you to continue. So Joe Garcia, who's really big into podcasting in San Antonio, reached out to me and said, let's make something happen. So our podcast is kind of like a quasi regular podcast. So don't be wrong, if you download it on Spotify or on YouTube, it is a podcast type of show. But for those who want to watch it, it functions as though it's a TV show with daily guests for the most part. 3 out of 5 days out of the week, we'll have a guest. Jeff Garcia was our first guest, and we've had we've had everybody from Mike Taylor. We had Maddie Sky recently. We've had several people come on to talk about sports, and obviously we're going to be talking sports, but it's a lot about pop culture, and it's a lot about just nostalgia. What makes me excited to talk about, to be honest with you. But I will say this though. Going from 0 YouTube followers to now over 350 in 9 days.
Wow.
Is pretty good. And our last show had over 1,000 views. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. And it's been an overwhelming success so far. And I can't tell you how excited I am for it. And we're trying to fill the gaps because there is no local sports talk radio in San Antonio from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Right now, we're going from 12 to 1:15. In 30 days, we're going to make that a 2-hour show. And we're looking at the possibility of doing 4 hours of programming with other hosts as well. Because, come on, man, how are we not having any local sports talk when we've got Wemby, when we've got the Cowboys and the Houston Texans getting better, and UT football coming up, and San Antonio FC trying to defend its title, and all of these things happening in San Antonio and in South Texas. This is going to be a fun ride. And if the local sports talk radio shows don't want any part of it, then I'll do it.
Absolutely. That's why everybody should subscribe to
it's been fun, but it's called MJ Acquired Taste. Right. Subscribe on YouTube.
Make sure
that's right. We had a caller who called in a long time ago. We had callers at my old radio station call in and say, you're an acquired taste. Didn't like you at first, but my goodness, I stuck around and suddenly I love you. And when I was thinking about a name, the acquired taste stuck, because that's kind of that describes me, because you might not like me the first time you meet me or hear me, but eventually you'll like what you hear, and it's a fun time. And thank you to Jeff Garcia for being a big part of it.
Not a problem. It is a fun show, everybody. I definitely recommend everybody should check it out on YouTube. Subscribe to it right now and follow Jimenez on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. Hey, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. The next episode will probably be a little later in the day, because it'll be draft night by the time I get that going, by the time I cut it up. So expect it late tomorrow, but definitely we'll do some post-draft reaction. We know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of what could happen after the obvious. Wemby's a Spur. Did the Spurs trade? Just anything. What does Brian Wright have to say? Popovich have to say after Wemby and the other draft picks, if they stand pat, right here on Locked On Spurs. So once again, you guys are the everydayers, and we thank you. But for Michael Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.